she came there to the hospital room and brought me lunch. And I was like, this is amazing.
But you're just not in your like rational thinking brain. You're like in labor land.
Did you know that even doulas need their own birth doulas? Hi, I'm Susan White, and let's continue with our interview with the Doula Sisters, Emma Ray and Elizabeth Strysko, to find out why Elizabeth needed a doula for her own labor and birth. Can you all think of a specific like birth story that you felt like having the doula there really made a big difference so our viewers can kind of understand a little more about how that works?
Do you want to talk about your last labor a little
Yeah,
bit?
I can talk about my last labor because my last labor was a little different because I ended up having gestational hypertension and turned into preeclampsia. And Emma was my doula. And it was really, she came with me to a few appointments because my husband was still overseas. And so it was really nice to have her there just to ask questions, bounce things off of her, see what she was thinking about. They were bringing up induction and, we were going back and forth, like, should I be induced? Should I not be induced? It ended up, I decided to be induced. And, a fifth time mom, people may think, oh, she has it, like she's done it, and I think in the room, having Emma there to remind me, let's try this. Let's move in this position. I was just focusing on like getting through these contractions and making sure I didn't want contractions to stall because they started me on miso to get my contractions going. And so Emma was so good to have there because she was just like, let's do this for 5 minutes. And then after, when you're done with this, let's do this. Because when you're in the moment of like laboring, I think like I'm a pretty organized person and like I like things like this. And in that moment, I could not be like that. But having Emma there, she was like, okay, 10 minutes, let's do this. Then let's get into the shower and then let's get out and bounce on the ball. And so it was really good because I didn't really have to like think of the next thing I had to do. I had to just, I guess, let my body relax and let it do its thing. And it did its thing. And having Emma there was really good because usually my husband is really like helping me. And so it was really nice to have her give him a break. And then after they induced me, I ended up having to get on magnesium, and that was really awful. And it was hard for me, like thinking of, you hear about the cascade of interventions, and I slowly saw that happening with my fifth birth. And so being able to like text Emma when she wasn't there in the beginning and just be like, okay, I'm feeling really sad and worried about this. And just knowing, Emma was there praying that things would work out, and just her encouraging texts with me while I was like contemplating stopping magnesium, and having her just text me these encouraging texts and prayers, knowing that she was praying that everything would work out. It was just encouraging for me. And just, even though it was very chaotic in my like soul, I felt very at peace, like, okay, everything's going to work out and it's going to be okay. And then eventually I decided to like really advocate for myself, and I got off of magnesium. Emma joined us. She brought me lunch, which was amazing because when you're on magnesium, you can't eat for like, you can't eat at all. You can't move. You can't get out of the bed. And so I wasn't eating. And so it was, she came there to the hospital room and brought me lunch. And I was like, this is amazing. And, and it's really interesting because, I ate, I got off magnesium, and then all of a sudden, like they pulled out my Foley bulb because they used that to get me to like a 3, I think 3 or 4. And then all of a sudden my contractions kind of just kicked in. I think it was something like feeling, or I know it was feeling that safety, you know, like, okay, Emma was here. I'm off of magnesium. I felt confident, like, okay, I can labor. I can have this baby now. Like my body felt like when I was on magnesium, it felt awful. I felt like I couldn't labor like this. And so Emma got there, and then my contractions just kind of kept going. Emma just kept on encouraging me, get on the ball, let's do this in the shower. And contractions just kept going. And then I didn't have to be on Pitocin, and I ended up having baby, and everything worked out. Like it was great.
Yeah, I think in that birth and like in a lot of births, you're not in your like thinking brain, even as like Elizabeth was a doula herself at that point and was in labor. But you're just not in your like rational thinking brain. You're like in labor land. And so to have someone come in and like remind you, remember we practiced breathing like this. Remember we talked about trying this position. Remember we talked about laboring on the toilet. Like just to remind you of those things that you already know, but are not necessarily going to come right to your mind. I think that can really help. And then we also like another thing that we do that we feel is really effective when we come into the hospital. Like sometimes a hospital can feel really sterile and really just kind of like medicalized and cold. We do our best to make it feel like a homey, warm environment, like something like you're at home and you're in this peaceful space and it's like where you want to give birth. So we like bring little LED, little flickering candle lights. We have a star projector. We have like, we'll hang up birth affirmations for you to read, of like mantras that you can speak to yourself, scripture, Bible verses, things that you'll see, and they will just, we hope that they'll encourage you during labor. So we just want to kind of set the mood and set the tone that this is a calm environment. You're safe. You know, your baby is coming soon, and just kind of get all of that positivity flowing for you.
Worship music. We
Yeah.
have like worship music playing if you want that.
Sounds very relaxing. And that's amazing that a doula can really help you work through a situation where your birth goes in an unexpected direction, where you're having complications. You know, no one expects to have anything bad happen, but when something like that does come up, you have someone to help you navigate and still be able to deal with it, and still be able to help you advocate for yourself, and then still have the birth experience that you were hoping for. So that is an amazing story. I appreciate that so much. How can our viewers reach you all?
We're very active on our Instagram, which is E_E Doula Sisters. So you can send us a message there. We put out a lot of educational content, and you can also email us. We're at E&E_Doula_Sisters@gmail.com. Or you can check out our website, which is E&E_Doula_Sisters.com. And yeah, we're happy to connect with anyone wherever you are.
And I can put all those links in the description as well. All right. Well, thank you, ladies, very much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks, Susan.